I'm Melanie Johnson, along with my co-host Jen Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hey, welcome to our podcast again today. We have another super great show. Jen, how are you doing?
It's a great day. I'm really excited to learn all about this today on our podcast.
Yeah, this is a big topic because we're talking real estate. The predictions are all over the place. Is the market going to crash? Are there going to be opportunities? We know the inventory is down right now. Do I buy? Do I sell? What do I do? Well, we have an expert on house hacking. Matter of fact, he has a book. It's called Military House Hacking. So it's not just for people in military, but what I love is that he's got this market of helping people in the military, in or out of the military, how to create reoccurring income and grow their wealth. So Mike Foster, thanks for coming today. I can't wait to hear all your housing hacks and your take on the market.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is an honor.
Great. Well, tell us, Mike, a little bit about how you got into this and your background, how you got into real estate.
Sure. So short and sweet, right? We definitely, my wife and I definitely fell into real estate kind of by accident. I was transitioning out of the service, or at least, came from my first deployment and realized I didn't want to make it a career. So with my last 2 years or 3, years in, I decided, all right, let me try and find something that I can transition to. Tried some entrepreneurial things, didn't necessarily work, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and fell in love with real estate. Just the idea of being able to find rental properties, put tenants in and make affordable housing, make nice housing, and get compensated for it, right? It was great. And so I used my VA loan, which a lot of people think that you can only use it for just buying your single family house, right? The house you're going to live in. No, you can buy it for a multifamily up to 4 units. So I bought 2 units. I rented out the bottom and I lived in the top. And when my wife came, because she was, separated from a different duty station from me, she came over and we stayed there. And whenever we would be on deployment, which was usually during the summer, we'd rent it out on Airbnb. And from there, we were able to really do that successfully. We had some great management systems in place, and the money that we made from that, we saved to invest in further investments.
Man, all right, so that's a topic. So I've done Airbnb and VRBO. I did VRBO like the first year that it was up online on one of my houses. I was a pioneer, and I was very successful with it. And I even had a website for my house on its own. It was the HoustonMansion.com and WalloonLakehouse.com, and was making 6 figures.
Hey, there you go.
Yep. So let's talk about the pros and cons. So you get a rental property. How do you decide to do VRBO or Airbnb it, or do long-term every month? Someone comes in and they sign a rental agreement for a year or 2 years with you. How do you decide to do that? And then I have another question after that. I don't want to forget. Jen can ask it or reiterate it. Is about management companies and your tips and hacks on that.
Right. No, love it. The first question that you want to ask yourself specifically, if the situation is, this is your primary residence, right? How long are you going to be gone, right? Are you leaving the area completely? So let's say for the military, we PCS, we travel, all the time. And we go from duty station to duty station for anywhere from 3 to 4 years. So if you're going to leave that home, then that makes more sense for you to do a little bit more of a long-term rental strategy. Unless, you're in a desirable area and maybe you can Airbnb and have the systems in place, and we can get back to that in a minute. But if you're going to be going out, temporary, let's say, you're out for 30 days or you're out for a summer, maybe this is your second home, why not do a short-term rental strategy like VRBO? I love what you said. That's great. That was actually one of the major platforms that we use too. And when you say Airbnb, it's kind of like that overall short-term rental strategy. And there are a few thrown in there, but what I loved about VRBO is that they were the original Airbnb. They've been around for like a decade at least before
Yeah.
Airbnb came out. And you definitely find a lot more higher paying and, I think better quality, right? Tenants,
Mhm.
on sites like that. But yeah, so whatever your strategy, just think about how long you're going to be at home, and then also think about your income goals, right?
Mhm.
Because you can definitely do Airbnb or vacation rentals and make a lot of money, right? Six figures. It's not hard if you're in a good area. It's not hard to do that, but it becomes a business, and you got to operate it as a business, and you got to think, all right, well, there's more of my time invested into getting that high return, or do I not have as much time, and will I be okay just doing that long-term rental strategy and making sure that I cash flow at the end of each month?
Yeah, because the
Right.
Airbnb, you still have like the unknown. Like you could go
Right,
months without income. In COVID, a lot of them crashed and burned, and they're having to pay the mortgage and
right.
expenses and not having income. And maybe you have a chance that you could go upside down unless you have enough cash flow or set aside in
Right,
that.
a reserve set aside. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I love the fact that you brought up COVID, because there are definitely ways to hack that too. And you just got to think, when you're buying your property, what is the value add with this
Mhm.
property, right? What's your target market? Who are you trying to bring in? Because if you're just renting an apartment, in a city, and doing it on Airbnb, then that is probably going to, be it's probably not going to bring in as much profit during a global pandemic, right? But if you have a nice little place that's kind of separate from everything, maybe it's on a beach, maybe it's on a river, maybe it's on a lake, right? And it's a nice place for just families to just come and retreat to, then you'll still
Yeah.
be fine, right? You'll even find some locals that want to just escape, the craziness and chaos of the city, and maybe just
Yeah.
come and stay in your place. So you got to think about, like, what's your target market, and how recession proof is that target market.
Right. I love how you talk about that niche or that target, because if you have that person in mind, then it's a lot easier to market your short-term rental, as well as add value. Like you said, like I know on Airbnb, I've used it for myself just to stay at a few places, and it has, some people have add-ons where they'll say like,
Mhm.
oh, like you can use our paddleboard and it costs this much, or you can do this excursion, or you can do this thing that's a
Yeah,
value add, and it's an event, right? So
right.
it's not just like, okay, they're going to come and stay at my lake house. It's no, they can come and stay at my lake house, and for this amount, they can use this equipment, or they have this adventure, this excursion planned with a tour guide, or whatever you want it to be, or a Segway ride, or whatever it is, right? So
Right,
having
right.
those value adds. So tell us a little bit about that management portion. So say I want to start, I'm going to start, a duplex, and I'm going to rent out one side of it, and I'm going to live in the other side. Do I want to be like, tell us about that. Do I want to be the manager? Do I want to fix the toilet? Like, tell us all about that.
So I highly recommend that you do not fix the toilets, right? Even if you are perfectly
Yeah.
capable of doing it. I mean, unless of course, right, you're in this situation where maybe you have a few homes in the area and you want to make this your full-time or your retirement. If you really have a desire to do it, do it. It'll save you
Yeah.
some money, right?
Become the
But
property manager, because that's what your
yeah,
goal is, maybe. But
and it's well, and in a short-term rental situation, you kind of are the property manager, but you almost become more of that concierge, like hotel manager, because
yeah.
really it's all about customer service and hospitality, right? So, and you can have a lot of fun with that. Like, I've had a lot of fun going and meeting the tenants, presenting a bottle of champagne on one of my tenants' anniversaries that they're just coming to escape on the beach for a little bit. That brings me joy. But I also don't like fixing toilets. So, so I have a network of folks in that market that are able to help me out, whether it's a friend, whether it's a service repair professional, right? I totally recommend that you find professionals that are good at their job that you can contract out to do certain things. But understand that if you're doing short-term rentals, you're going to want a handyman, right? A handyman that you can
Yeah.
call up, because some things are kind of a little bit more of a rush, right? Like, you need that garbage disposal fixed kind of right away, because
Yeah.
you don't want your tenants sitting in there for a couple of days without it, or or let's say, yeah, the toilet does overflow, right? You need to have that emergency professional to come and take care of that right away, especially if you have 2 units and it's going to be leaking on the one
Yeah.
downstairs, right? So you
Right.
don't want to do that. But yeah, so management is definitely important. At the very least, you want to have a few people in your pocket. Understand that short-term rental management does come at a cost, right? Usually, if you're hiring someone to manage your entire property for you, including handling all the customer, or sorry, the tenant communication, handling all the, like, I got to tell them the Wi-Fi codes. I got to go and show up and, go let them in the door because the lock box isn't working, right? Whatever happens. That stuff does come at a cost. Typically it's anywhere from 20 to 30% from what I've seen. That's on average. So it is a little bit more than your typical property management for long-term renters, where it's about 10%. But think of it this way, right? If you're making 6 figures over the year with a couple of properties and you're paying 20%, that's really not that bad, right? I mean, how many people out there make, 60K, 70K salaries, right? And you've got that with, a couple properties. It's pretty good.
And you don't have any hassle with it, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Right.
it's kind of starting when you have the management team, it kind of just rolls in there.
Mm-hmm.
What about buying? Walk us through, what should we look for? I mean, to me, it's almost intimidating. I've always done single family, but then my son is looking at multifamily and I'm like, I don't know, it's
That's
scary.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. So, I mean, again, this goes back to your goals. And I think we'll probably get into a little bit of the house hacking, with this question, because it really all depends on, well, not even your goals, but your situation too, right? Your situation is definitely dependent. Some people don't really feel comfortable going into a multifamily if they've got 3 kids and a dog, or maybe another cat, and they need their space and they don't really want to share walls, right? Or live underneath somebody. That's fine. And there are strategies for that too. But I would say at first, start with your situation, start with your goals, get real with your expectations, and then figure out, okay, how can I make the most out of this current situation? Am I here temporarily, right? Am I going to be able to turn this into a rental property afterwards? Or is this going to be a place where I'm kind of looking to plant some roots? I'm not sure if this area is for me, but maybe I can go somewhere else. All right, cool. So if it's temporary and this is a stepping stone for you, I highly, highly encourage you to consider multifamily if you can do it, right? Maybe two units, maybe 3 units, maybe 4, right? And even if you're a civilian, you don't have to be military. Fannie and Freddie, the guidelines for those primary residence loans, you can still buy a 4-plex as a primary residence.
Wow.
You can put down a small amount of money, right? Anywhere from 10 to maybe a little less than 20%, sometimes without paying PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. Just kind of depends on the loan product that you get. But you can live in one and you can rent out the other. And what that does is it allows you to save that money that you're making from your job, from whatever your situation is. And you can use that to invest later on, or you can use that to, live your comfortable lifestyle. Because some people really don't want to buy, properties for days. Maybe they'll just be comfortable with their 1 4-plex, and that's cool. So that is one way to house hack. If you are not in that situation, and maybe your situation dictates that you stay a little bit more, single family wise, that's cool, right? There are ways that you can house hack that. Again, we were talking about the short-term rentals, right? If you're going to be gone for a little bit, if you are living in that house and you plan on living there for at least a year or 2, maybe a little more, you can build value into that home, right? We call it sweat equity. And you want to find opportunities that you can develop that property and make it nicer, right? Let it come up in the community. Just to go into a little bit of real estate jargon, there are 4 classes of properties that we typically classify: A, B, C, and D. Your A class properties are the really nice ones on the golf course and the lakes. B classes are nicer properties, but they don't cost as much. Maybe they're in a nice community in a school. Your C class is maybe in a decent area. They're low cost living, but there's not a lot of crime, right? It's still safe. And then of course your D class is pretty much the hood, right? Yeah. So avoid the D's for sure. Yeah. And maybe find, C class properties in B class areas, and you lift those up. Right. So what I like to say, and it just makes this concrete, makes it a little visual. You want to take someone's rental property and turn it into someone's dream home. right? That's the easiest way to say that. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's throwing in some flooring while you're there. Maybe it's throwing in the granite countertops, the backsplash, right? Making it nice. But you can totally do that. You can raise the value anywhere that you can add square footage to the home, livable square footage. Maybe it's an extra bedroom, maybe it's an extra bathroom, or maybe it's an extension on the home. You know, all that type of stuff raises the value in the area. And then long term, when you're looking to move in the back end, you can sell it and make a lot of that money back, or you can rent it and now you can maybe refinance. And, you know, say if you're in the military, you can get your VA loan back, and then you can go and do it all over again.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about your book and where people can go to find it.
Yeah, so military house hacking, you can go find it on Amazon. Certainly, you can go to our website, www.activedutypassiveincome.com, and you can get a free digital copy of it there. But yeah, it's an awesome book, and we definitely, you know, it's a little bit more than military house hacking, just getting the military in the mindset of, you know, investing, right, in general, because you know, we are more of a conservative community. And so sometimes, you know, you just got to get warmed up to the idea of doing it, but it's great.
And I think it's important to know, like, after they've read your book, like, it seems like a big risk to say, I'm going to go buy a fourplex, but then after they've read your book and understand kind of the ins and outs, it's not really as big of a risk as I think it is.
Correct. Right. Because I mean, in the military, you know, we've learned this too. Risks are always risks. There's always risk, but you know, you have calculated risks, and you do what's called we call it ORM, which is operational risk management. And the more educated you are, the more, you know, practiced you are on handling situations, right? The more confident you become. And so in the military, we have this saying, you know, we practice chaos all the time. And that's why, you know, as the US military, we're the best, right? Because we always practice for when things go wrong. And if you just realize that you can take that same philosophy in life and, you know, think about it, like, what's the worst case scenario that when you have a home, all right, you know, maybe the toilets break. All right, cool. Find someone to call. You know, a hurricane comes through and blows my home off. All right, cool. Make sure you have insurance, right? You know, like, there are so many different cases that you can go through and solutions that you can find if you just allow yourself to take the time to think about them, to network with other people, right? Which is huge. And, you know, and just be confident. But nothing, you can solve everything with education, networking, and action. You can solve anything. You can accomplish anything. I firmly believe that, and we stand by that with our company and our brand.
I love that. Those are three powerful, powerful words. Well, I got down a few tips, and I think you're right. You just have to plow through it and take the jump. And once you educate yourself and take the plunge, then it's a learning curve for anything. And then you're ready to rinse and repeat. Thanks for coming today. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast and share this episode with anybody in the military, and share Mike's book. And remember to tune in next time.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.